my teachers used to call me quote unquote Makkar. Like, are you categorizing all the hackers by saying that ये वो लोग होडी में बैठते हैं और कोने में बैठे रहते हैं?
That's exactly my goal.
Yeah. You're trying to portray me as a nerd, which I am. That's fine. In India, we don't have enough people who are specialized to find out developmental delays in children. So all the things that my parents got to know was like, ये tonic दे दो अपने बच्चे को सही हो जाएगा. There used to be a calcium tablet at that point. They were like, ये इसकी हड्डियों में कुछ कमी है, वो सही हो जाएगा. But the app has helped more than 15,000 parents globally to figure out whether their child has a developmental delay or not.
Wow.
And if they have a developmental delay, what is the kind of therapist they should visit? I can clearly quote that I have changed 15,000 lives.
Yes.
So I'm happy about it. If someone is selling mentorship, don't get mentored by them.
Very well said.
Whenever it comes to mental health, what is the first thing you hear?
Oh, I think there's a lot of taboo. I think people they don't know what to expect from you. The first thing they feel is that maybe you're dysfunctional. God knows if you'll be able to work like a normal person. Like you're just termed as abnormal instantly.
Did that ever happen to you? You go to a lot of physiotherapists, right?
Yes.
They do tests, they do x-rays, they do MRIs.
Yeah.
Or they at least feel what's happening.
Yeah.
RTMS is shock therapy. Basically, they put 2 electrodes on your brain, which has, by the way, helped a lot of people. I'm not denying it has not helped people.
Yeah.
But who asked for an MRI before that? How do you know that these neurons are not connected properly?
Yeah.
How do you know that my brain has a different level of serotonin than the blood work that I have?
Yeah.
I think I will make a very controversial statement right now, and I'm not afraid to make it. I don't think mental health is stigmatized because of the way it is seen. I think it is stigmatized because of the way it is treated. Right? Like, no astronomer wants to be confused as an astrologer.
Yeah.
But when it comes to psychology, we are like, oh, it's all subjective. Oh, a mind coach and a psychologist is the same thing. Oh, a person who did a certificate in psychology is the same as a person who did an MBBS and actually did an MPhil in psychology. I will go that far.
That is true. Very true.
You know, I've always told that, hey, Harsh, you cannot build a mental health company because you don't have a high level of emotional quotient.
Okay.
Which I'm okay with, right? But
no, I don't agree with it, but
I'm okay with that. But they will not ask you for a vitamin B12 deficiency test or a lactose intolerance test or a gluten allergy test or a D3 deficiency test.
Yeah.
Most people feel depressed because they don't get enough sun in their life. Most vegetarian or vegan people get depressed because they don't have enough B12 in their body or omega-3 fatty acid in their body. Who is testing that? Indians are going to cancel me for that. But anyway, I don't think people with mental health issues give up. I think they are always asking for help, but nobody gives them the help they deserve.
Hi everyone. So for my podcast, I have a very, very special guest who's a very, very dear friend. Harsh, thank you for making time.
Thank you so much for calling me.
I think we're going to have the best banter.
I hope so. Yes.
So basically, how we met is that we sat in the same co-working space, and I just saw this person, this young guy with a hoodie, all hidden in the corner. And I was like, who is this guy and what does he do and what is he doing in this co-working space? Later, when I met him and I started talking to him and I Googled him, was when I realized that this is Harsh Songra, who built his very first product in technology at the age of 15.
Yeah, I made my first startup at the age of 15, but like, are you categorizing all the hackers by saying that ये वो लोग होडी में बैठते हैं और कोने में बैठे रहते हैं?
That's exactly my goal.
Yeah, you're trying to portray me as a nerd, which I am. That's fine.
Not anymore. I think you've evolved tremendously, and we will get to that. We'll talk about your entire journey.
Yeah.
So we'll go back in time,
Yes.
and we'll go back at the age of 11 when
Yes.
you first discovered that you had something called dyspraxia.
Correct.
Now, for my audience, let's break it down. What is dyspraxia?
So dyspraxia or dyspraxia, depending on where you stay in the world and how you speak English, is a developmental disorder in which your brain and your body part do not coordinate well. And things like, tying your shoelaces, buttoning up your shirt, or writing in exams is very difficult because there's a slight delay between the signals that your brain send and the physical reaction that your body gives.
Firstly, how did you discover that you had this condition?
So that's a fun story, right? Like in India, we don't have enough people who are specialized to find out developmental delays in children. Maybe now we have, but at that time we did not have. So all the things that my parents got to know was like, ये tonic दे दो अपने बच्चे को सही हो जाएगा. There used to be a calcium tablet at that point. They were like, कि इसकी हड्डियों में कुछ कमी है, वो सही हो जाएगा. But at the age of, I guess, 10 or 11, my parents decided that, hey, let's go to a clinical psychologist and see what's happening. That clinical psychologist actually specialized in child development, and they did a couple of tests on me to figure out what I was going through and what I was not going through. Also, what the reason for them to get pushed for this was the fact that my parents always saw me as someone who had the intellectual ability to do good in exams.
Yes.
But unfortunately, I was not able to do it.
Yes.
When in school, my teachers used to call me quote unquote makkar because if the paper is of 100 marks, I was only able to complete for 40 marks, and I used to get 40 out of 40 technically.
Right.
So they used to be like, oh, Harsh is just lazy. That's why he does not complete the test. Right? But that was not laziness. That was actually a developmental disorder which no one knew about.
Yes, I know. I mean, people like to bucket everything.
Yes.
And they want to limit things only up to the limits of their own understanding.
Just like you bucketed me as a guy in a hoodie who hacked.
Well, you were there in a hoodie and you were coding.
Yeah, that's
so. Factually, I'm not. But yes, it was quite surprising that you could recognize that I am somebody who would love doing podcasts at that time without even knowing me.
Yeah.
And here we are today.
Yes.
So which shows your entrepreneurial abilities, recognizing somebody's skill maybe.
Yeah.
If I may dare to say so.
I mean, I'm not that good in recognizing people's skill. But I'm good in pushing people to do the right thing, perhaps. And if I figure out that someone has an ability, I will, push them to a place where they will either start hating me or like do the thing which I've asked them to do. One of the two.
So I'm going to go. I know that about you, and we'll come to that in a bit. But I want to go back again to that time.
Yes.
Now you figure you have this condition.
Yeah.
And when I read your article, the Forbes Under 30 listing article, I also read that you had undergone a personal setback.
Yeah.
And you are a self-taught coder.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So I guess Forbes, okay, I should not be saying it like this, but that point of the personal setback, there was a poster that got circulated saying that I broke up and that pushed me to coding. That was not the case. I guess I was coding way before that. I started coding at the age of 10. Right. And when I built MyChild App, the reason was not because I broke up. Right.
Of course.
But I guess the poster circulated because it just was a great statement to make, I guess. I
And-
don't blame anyone for it, but I guess I was the one who told the reporter to do that. But yeah.
I think people glorify breakups and use that as sort of like a fuel to focus more on work.
But is that a reality? I don't think it's a reality. I think people don't understand the importance of good relationships. I guess everyone is told all the time that good people ha- can do deep work in isolation, right? Like we read that hey, Bill Gates goes to this hut and does deep work over there, does his research over there. We don't realize that he is able to go to that hut because he is feeling secure about everything else that is going on in his life.
Yes.
You need that sense of security that relationships bring in your life
Yes.
when you're building something big. And I guess I had that sense of security because of the kind of parenting and the kind of support my mom and dad always gave me.
Yes. I know. I can totally understand what you're saying. So now you are somebody who dropped out
Yes,
of college
yes.
and then you taught yourself how to code.
I knew how to code before college. So I knew how to code since the age of 10.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So now like you make this amazing product and I would like to tell my audience about it.
yeah.
So Harsh built his first product which helps people realize if their children aged between 11 to 24 months
1 to 24 months.
1 to 24 months if they have any developmental disorders.
Yes.
So Harsh, now I can understand the pain point that you came from.
Yeah.
But tell me something, what were the initial reactions that you got after building something like this in India?
Okay. So there were a lot of reactions that were like, of course, like beautiful, right? Media started writing about it, people started talking about it. Like people in whichever conferences went to, people were excited about it. But I guess the biggest reaction, the biggest thing that like always melted my heart was that, parents reached out to me on Facebook, on Instagram, and told me that, hey, like we feel that we are not alone anymore. Thank you so much for talking about that journey. And that thing just like blew my mind because when I was growing up, they saw me suffering.
Yes.
Nobody told them that it happens to 1 in 6 children
Right.
globally,
Yes.
right? But now I was able to give other people this comfort that if my child is going through something like this, they would be able to, like get better in life, or they would be able to do something on their own in life. And giving people that comfort is something like that made me more excited to work towards what I was building.
You were giving them hope.
Yeah, hope.
Yes. And the app was downloaded, and I'm quoting from a 2016 dated article.
Yeah.
The app was downloaded amongst 8,000 different people across 100 countries.
Yeah, it's an old article. So the app has, again, downloads are not the right metric for an app like that. The metric that I would try to use is the app has helped more than 15,000 parents globally to figure out whether their child has a developmental delay or not.
Wow.
And if they have a developmental delay, what is the kind of therapist they should visit? Whether it's a physical therapist, neurological therapist, or a speech therapist. Now that, like I can clearly quote that I have changed 15,000 lives.
Yes.
So I'm happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, we rarely hear of founders making like a real impact, and this is like a very deep impact.
Yeah.
Directly reaching a family.
Yeah.
Helping the younger generation.
Yeah.
But Harsh, tell me something. So Sheryl Sandberg reviewed your product.
Correct.
And the Facebook startup
Program.
program helped you out, and the
Yeah.
app is called MyChild App. So what is happening with that now?
It's on autopilot. I have not updated it since a long time. I would say that I could have made it better, but I didn't figure out the right revenue model for it
Okay.
or an app like that and the
Yeah.
kind of impact it could create.
Yeah.
I would love to relaunch it, but I guess right now I am focusing on different problems which I want to solve.
Yes.
And what MyChild app does actually falls under that umbrella. So maybe a few years down the line, you will see a version 2 of MyChild app.
Yeah, I really hope so too.
Yeah.
Harsh, tell me something.
Ah.
Now, you said you had a breakup at 13,
Nice.
at 16.
Ah.
When was the breakup? Like, when were you dating? I mean, this is, very modern for a lot of people living in Bhopal.
Why? Okay. First of all, people living in Bhopal are also humans.
Right.
And every humans have hormonal changes at the age of 16 to 18.
Right.
Now everyone goes through that. It's as simple as that.
So, you've always been a very vulnerable person.
Yeah.
And so just moving a little ahead in your life.
Yeah.
So, after MyChild App, I
Yeah.
think something amazing happened with you.
Yeah.
You met somebody called Samir,
Yeah.
and what was the story?
So I met Sameer at the age of, I guess, 17. In 2015, we met at a conference, and that's when MyChild app was just launched. There was no PR about it, nothing about it, and I was just talking to the world about, hey, I'm a bacha who has made a cool product. By the way, I'm 16 and I run 3 startups and all that shit. Okay, and Sameer was someone who actually was one of the people who taught me how to code,
Okay.
their boss at India Games. So Sameer built an amazing company, sold it to a media giant, and then started his own company with A.R. Rahman and Shekhar Kapoor, right? So when I met Sameer, he was like, oh, you're building something cool, let's talk more. And I kept nagging him. Like, he was like, why is this kid behind me all the time? Like, I used to call him every third day or fourth day and tell him that, hey, I made this. These are my updates. What should I do? Right? And that was the time, I guess, when WhatsApp was just getting into the thing. We
After
also,
BBM.
yeah, we also had BBM and all that. So I used to text Samir like every other day, hey, I've done this. Hey, Sam, can we get on a call? I used to email him. And then, like, uh, Samir came in as an investor in MyChild app in October of 2015, that year itself. He wrote one of the biggest checks, right?
Okay.
And that started my journey with Samir very closely. Like, I used to call Samir at 2 in the night asking him that, will I be able to do this? Will I be able to run this company? And Samir has been the biggest support of my life. I knew that there were days when I was going through a tough time and he will take a break from his working day and call me to Bombay to spend time with him, you know?
I want to know, like, when you met Samir for the first time in an
Yeah.
event in Bangalore, you had shared
In Delhi. Yeah.
in Delhi.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you met Samir for the first time, I want you to tell me that what do you think was it that he saw in you? And what did you see in him? How did because I feel a mentor-mentee relationship for a founder is very crucial.
Yeah. See, it was not something that he was seeking or I was seeking, right? I just kept on nagging him because his feedback was always really helpful.
Okay.
He always pushed me to go to the next step,
Okay.
right? And he did it in the nicest way possible. You cannot imagine people always expect founders or investors to be cutthroat, to be rude, and all that. Samir was none of that. Samir was the sweetest person you will ever meet, and he will make you feel so comfortable and so warm that you'll just be vulnerable in front of him, right? And that's how he made me feel for the first time, right?
I think the market is missing of investors. I don't know about international markets.
Yeah.
I've tried my hand at fundraising in Singapore and India only.
Yeah,
Maybe spoken to a few investors in Hong Kong.
yeah,
But it's so, the energy is so masculine, like very just one-sided. It's always
Yeah.
about numbers and very aggressive.
yeah,
So I understand what you're saying. You know, I feel founders also need that kind of mentorship.
yeah,
It's not just about the money to run your company, but
Yeah.
you also need guidance on how should I,
yeah.
grow or scale.
Samir was a person who had the perfect amalgamation of EQ and numbers,
Yes.
which you find very rarely in people nowadays. And yeah, like after I was not able to run my child app properly, Samir came. Uh, Samir just called me and said that, hey, I need you to come and shadow me because I don't think you know how to run a company. I'm like, okay, cool, I'll do that. When should I come? He's like, tomorrow. I'm like, okay, sure. So I flew from Bhopal to Mumbai. I shadowed him from 19th or 20th of April 2019 till we started the lockdown. And after going into lockdown, Samir passed away in a bike accident in June of 2020. I guess that was the best relationship I've ever had in my life. And he made me into an adult. I wouldn't have become someone who understands what he's doing if Samir was not there in my life.
What was he trying to build?
He has built a legacy of great founders and individuals that have been with him. Like if you just go on Twitter and read stories about the way Samir was with people, you would cry in tears because of those stories. Like, I mean, there are stories with me as well, right? Like, I remember I was working with him and I told him that, hey, Sam, like, I'm feeling very anxious today. And there was an important meeting back that day. And I remember he left office, came to my house just to check on me and see whether I was doing good or not.
Wow.
Who does that? Right? Like that guy had a big team to take care of. That guy had an important meeting to take care of that day, but he chose to come and just have a look on how I was doing. And there are several stories about Samir that make you feel like, I mean, how can
Do people like these exist
Yeah.
in today's times?
Yeah,
I know what you're saying. I mean, I've not been that lucky to meet someone like that yet.
Mm.
I think a lot of people have to run behind successful people for mentorship.
Mm.
And I feel now a lot of founders are trying to change that with their startups.
Mm.
But still, there's a certain wall,
Mm.
I would say.
Mm.
But it's great that you were receptive to,
Yeah.
being guided by somebody at such a close personal level.
Mm.
I think if I were to ask you, what are the top 5 things
Mm.
that you learnt?
Mm.
I mean, I'm sure you've learnt a million things
Mm.
shadowing him, being
Mm.
around him.
Mm.
But what are the top 5 that come to your mind right now?
I mean, I cannot rank it like that, but one of the biggest things that I've learned with Sam and other people who have mentored me is you don't have to run behind mentors. There's a vibe that ends up happening, and when that vibe matches, it clicks, and they are helping you, you are taking their help, and you both don't even know that, right? It's a very beautiful relationship that cannot be quantified, that cannot be automated, that cannot be algorithmized, if that's the right word. You need to meet, just like you find the right life partner, just like you find the right friends, you find the right mentors. And the right mentors will support you no matter what. They will stand by you no matter what. You can talk to them about girlfriend problems, money problems, any problem that is there in your life while running a startup, you can talk to them about it. Right? It's not like, hey, I'm giving you 20 minutes of my day and I will teach you this, 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 this. That's not what any mentor has ever done to me. I don't think that's, if someone is selling mentorship, don't get mentored by them.
Very well said. I think it berates the authenticity of the whole.
Yeah, it's like Ty Lopez. Sorry. And cut the name if you want. I don't care. That guy is like, you can't sell things just because you have a Lamborghini. Sorry.
So I want to know. So what I know is that you're using a keto diet to help your mental health.
Yeah.
And how does that work?
Okay, so let's take a step back.
Yeah.
What's wrong with my mental health first? I guess that's more important than what I'm doing to solve it.
So then I'll just rewind further.
Yeah.
So there was dyspraxia.
Yeah.
And I know that, we also, this is true that we give these labels and terms to mental health conditions.
Yeah.
And so you had dyspraxia, then you had a few phases or depressive phases.
Yeah.
And then I know in February 2023 was a very crucial time where you underwent a very difficult phase.
Yeah.
And you started taking medication for depression.
Correct.
Clinical depression and anxiety.
Yes.
Now, we're not going to, this podcast is not medical advice.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's important to share stories of personal growth around working towards your mental health. I've seen you struggle with mental health issues. You've seen me too.
Yeah.
But I've also seen you face, setbacks. I mean, with Samir passing away and a personal setback in February this year.
Yeah.
I want to understand what was your journey like?
Since February of 2023, I did have like a nervous breakdown, which changed my life. After that, I went to a psychiatrist and got on psychologist and a psychiatrist, by the way.
Already I remember you were taking therapy.
Yes.
And I don't want to, the objective of this conversation is not how did you overcome it?
Yeah.
But what was your process of acceptance?
Yeah.
What really happened?
I told my psychologist that I was feeling like self-harming, right?
Okay.
And when I did that, my psychologist told my parents that unfortunately, because of this, you need to get him on medications, otherwise it will be too late. So we went to a psychiatrist, very amazing psychiatrist based out of Bhopal, understood my case, talked to my parents. Parents are extremely supportive, it's not like the parents are staying away. They were a part of that conversation. I guess that is the biggest guardrail of my journey, if I have to say.
I think it's huge.
Right.
And I think Indian parents need to hear this.
Yeah.
How to be supportive rather than being critical always.
So, and the psychiatrist gave me a bunch of SSRIs and a bunch of anti-anxiety medication that I had to take. I also was on sleep medication for a while.
Again, for the audience, SSRIs.
Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors,
Okay.
antidepressants, basically.
Yes.
And when my psychiatrist gave it to my parents happily accepted it. They were like, hey, if he needs medication to get out of it, we will help make sure that he gets the medication on time and he
Yeah.
comes out of it on time.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, it was annoying for them to see me sleeping for 15 hours, 16 hours, 17 hours a day. Yes, the medications hit me very, very, very hard. But they were always there. They were there to tell me that, like, hey, wake up in the morning, let's go for a walk. Come back, sleep. We don't care if you sleep again, but let's go for a walk because you need that sun.
I read about this in your newsletters.
Yeah.
And your very first newsletter
Yeah.
in April
Yeah.
said that I'm writing this newsletter, but when will I write this newsletter again?
Yeah.
And it's amazing with that kind of challenge.
Yeah.
Mentally, you were
Yeah.
able to be vulnerable at the same time.
Yeah.
But people think that people who are undergoing clinical depression
Yeah.
are not brave, but being vulnerable is quite brave.
Yeah. I guess, our society stigmatizes asking help in one way or the other. I remember, listening to this quote by Steve Jobs where he says that, hey, I wanted to build something and I just called Bill Hewlett, I guess, of the founder of HP from a phone book and asked him that, hey, I want some parts to make a computer. And that guy, gave Steve Jobs the computer because they all were in Palo Alto, right? And also gave him a summer internship.
Yeah.
The reason that happened is because Steve picked up that phone and called that person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a very small example, but if you need help, what's the harm in asking it?
Yeah. I feel like somebody I met with you yesterday was saying that in India, it's very cultural that when a kid raises his hand in school, there are 5-10 hands to ask the kid to not raise his hand.
Correct.
Whereas in the United States, probably, and in other Western cultures, kids are encouraged to raise their hands. They are encouraged to ask questions.
Yes. I guess the best example for this is just go on YouTube and after watching this podcast, just go on YouTube and search for any of the lectures that Richard Feynman is giving. He is one of the best physicists that was alive ever on this planet. And the way he gave lectures and the way people ask him questions at Princeton or at MIT, that's different. That's not something that you see in India, right? In India, even at a conference full of startups or whatever, the other hands will only pop when one hand is up.
Yeah.
Right? You won't see 10 hands up at the same time. It never happens. It's like one hand goes up and then the wave starts.
Yeah. I was at a conference in Bangalore. I won't name the conference. And there was a founder who was trying to pitch for funding to a serial entrepreneur and investor.
Yeah.
And I ended up asking the founder at the end of listening to the conversation that are you applying for a job or are you asking for funding for your own company?
Yeah.
It almost sounded like, please hire us.
Yeah.
Whereas, so how do you think this culture impacts the mental health of people? This, culture of submission or easy submission.
I guess we are always told to be in our lane. And that's the biggest problem. Like, hey, and ironically, we are not taught how to be in our lane when we are on road. Like, we are taught that, hey, you can just cross any lane at any time and overtake whoever the hell you want.
Yeah.
But in life,
Yeah.
be in a lane.
Yeah.
Why? Be in a linear path.
Because this is right and that is wrong.
Correct. But I mean, in Gurgaon, unfortunately, it's unsafe to drive in one lane. By the way.
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. I drive every day. So.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, you built MyChild App. You
Yeah.
met Sameer. Unfortunately, Sameer passed away during COVID.
Yeah.
Very unexpectedly.
Yeah.
I know you keep going back to his messages
Yeah.
ever since I've known you, I think.
Yeah.
Firstly, can you say confidently that you've healed?
No, I don't think anyone can take his place in my life. And I don't think I will ever heal from that. I feel that I wish I could have made him proud.
I think you've made everybody proud. But do you feel that?
I don't think I've done what he trained me to. Let's just say that.
Well, I think you're on the path.
I hope he is watching.
I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
But you also, speaking about you being on the path, you had to deal with a major setback again in February this
Yeah.
year. And you've pulled yourself out of it, at least in
Correct.
front of my eyes. I want you to tell me about the process.
Sure.
What does it look like?
Okay. So when I was going through, and I'm still going through that, depression, anxiety, PTSD, all diagnosed, right, by a specialist on medication. After the point, I was like, why am I not not in control? Why is this happening to my body? And I trusted my doctors, right? But I don't think anywhere in the world a doctor goes deeper into what is happening to your body and why. And that's not because they don't want to, it's because they can either give you therapy and help, or they can tell you what you're going through. Like, dono nahi hota, right?
Right.
I started reading. I was able to read really less because of, again, the medication and the time which I was able to be productive and everything. But I started reading about depression, anxiety, why it happens, what are the reasons for these psychological issues. I mean, people just understand psychology from a base level of Sigmund Freud or whatever, but
Yes.
it's much
Very archaic. Yeah.
it's much more than that, right? Like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, like every psychologist in the world relies on two books, which is DSM-5 and ICD-11, which, by the way, authors themselves have said multiple times that, hey, you know what? We wrote the definition of PTSD like this. This is actually wrong. PTSD is a much broader umbrella now. It happened in 1980s. It has happened multiple times. That is why there are 5 versions of DSM right now. And when I read all of that, I was shocked with one thing, which is there are multiple doctors around the world who are trying to work on biomarkers for mental health, but these biomarkers are not being put in this book properly.
Right.
What I mean by that is, whenever it comes to mental health, what is the first thing you hear?
You mean like from family or
From
friends?
anyone.
Oh, I think there's a lot of taboo. I think people they don't know what to expect from you. The first thing they feel is that maybe you're dysfunctional. God knows if you'll be able to work like a normal person. Like you're just termed as abnormal instantly.
So whatever you're saying means is very like people quote unquote put mental health in an umbrella term of subjective,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Mental health is a very subjective thing. So
Yeah.
is cancer.
Yeah. So is any
So is a heart disease.
Yeah.
I don't think the way one person's heart suffers is as similar as another person's biopsy.
Yeah.
It's not the same. But have you ever gone to a cardiologist and asked him, and he has asked you, hey, how does your heart feel? And you say not good. Okay, just take this bottle of statins and go live your life. Did that ever happen to you? You go to a lot of physiotherapists, right?
Yes.
Did they ever tell you that, hey, your muscles are paining? Just take this muscle relaxant, you will be fine. They
No.
do tests, they do X-rays, they do MRIs,
Yeah.
or they at least feel what's happening.
Yeah. X-rays. I still get X-rays done almost every 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think psychiatrists do an MRI scan before giving people something like RTMS. RTMS is shock therapy. Basically, they put 2 electrodes on your brain, which has, by the way, helped a lot of people. I'm not denying it has
Yeah.
not helped people.
Yeah.
But who asked for an MRI before that? How do you know that these neurons are not connected properly?
Yeah.
How do you know that my brain has a different level of serotonin than the blood work that I have?
Yeah.
You don't.
You don't. And again, RTMS, which is, I mean, you're calling it shock therapy, but these are also like mild
Yeah.
electrodes,
Yeah. They put it like over here and
and
just.
they're very mild.
Yeah.
It's actually, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, they're actually given to heal the
Yeah.
neurotransmitters
Yes.
and the nerve endings.
Yes.
So any kind of mental health setback
Yeah.
may cause the nerve endings to rupture, or
Yeah.
they don't grow properly, and they're
Basically, your neurons are cells, and those cells, because they lack the power to grow, they might get dysfunctional
yeah
for the lack of right work,
yeah
and they may need to be repaired. And these electrodes help in repair.
help in repairing. Yes.
Right?
So, but then while you're repairing, so the repair happens not just with the RTMS, which is the mild shock wave, but also with therapy, verbal therapy, along with that,
With therapy, with SSRIs, I think
with
everything goes
medication.
and
It's a
yes.
combination of everything.
Yeah.
But it's very true. I think mental health, taking help for mental health in India is at a very initial stage.
I think I will make a very controversial statement right now, and I'm not afraid to make it. I don't think mental health is stigmatized because of the way it is seen. I think it is stigmatized because of the way it is treated. If heart attacks did not have a metric like blood pressure against it, there would be stigma against heart attacks. COVID had a stigma against it until unless we had vaccines. I think, and this is not me, and I've written about it on my newsletter. Dr. Tim Ansel, the one of the directors of NIMH, when he retired, he said that I've spent more than $20 billion in the last 20 years helping some really amazing researchers writing some really cool research around mental health.
Yeah.
And yet I have not been able to move a single decimal point in the number of suicides that happen globally.
Means the real impact is
Still missing, right? We have failed to give people the right kind of mental health support that they need.
Yes.
And it is a collective problem which people don't get.
I actually want to quote one of your sentences from your newsletter. So tell me something. Now, this is a very interesting topic. A lot of Forbes under 30 entrepreneurs
Uh,
have the swag
uh,
and the idea,
uh,
but they've made very tall claims
uh,
only for others to find out, including their investors or shareholders, that there's nothing concrete. So what do you, and you're a Forbes under 30 yourself.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to that?
See, I do feel Forbes under 30 helps you a lot. It gives you a good community to be with. It is a plaque that you can take and tell people that, hey, I've reached somewhere in life. It's definitely a plaque for someone like me because I have not been to an IIT or an IIM, right? So I need something that allows people to feel that, hey, yeah, kuch to cool kiya hai. So this is where it helps. But yeah, they are picking up kids, right? They won't go and do due diligence for those kids. Yeah, they are relying on. So yeah, a lot of these Forbes 30 under 30 did make tall claims, but the tall claims were made because they were invested in by very big investors, and those investors, key due diligence is something Forbes relied on.
Well said.
So I'm not saying it's Forbes' fault to make Elizabeth Holmes or 30 under 30.
No, it's no one's fault. But what I mean is it's a reflection of the society, because what are you hyping? You know?
You're hyping numbers, and numbers can be fudged. It's as simple as that.
So I want to come back though to, I mean, a lot of, how many Forbes under 30 entrepreneurs actually speak about mental health issues as a founder? I mean, of course, the ones who don't have a mental health application or a startup.
I think most people are in that zone ki, yaar, I don't have any mental health issue. I'm so cool. But I think everyone goes through them. That's a fact, right? Again, I'll come back to this point. We are overhyping numbers about what is your quarter on quarter profit. We are overhyping numbers about how many hours of activity you did in a particular day, but you don't know the numbers about what your mental health is doing.
Yes,
Right?
it's not quantifiable
It's
yet.
quantifiable. People don't quantify it. It's biology at the end of the day. Psychology is a subset of biology, right?
Yes.
Just like cardiology, just like physiotherapy,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Physiology, not physiotherapy, right?
Yeah.
So why are we making a science so subjective? It's like saying that an astronomer and an astrologer is the same thing.
Yeah.
No, one plays with tarot cards, the other actually looks at the position of planets.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't care about any astrologer canceling me. They have already cancelled me multiple times. I'm still living, so like I don't care. No astronomer wants to be confused as an astrologer.
Yeah.
But when it comes to psychology, we are like, oh, it's all subjective. Oh, a mind coach and a psychologist is the same thing. Oh, a person who did a certificate in psychology is the same as a person who did an MBBS and actually did an MPhil in psychology. I will go that far. No, it's not same.
So I want to share this, 2017, I was diagnosed with clinical depression.
Yeah.
I had a prescription where I was taking medication for anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
The medicines were tapered off after about 7-8 months.
Oh.
Then I took therapy. I went to a life coach. I also met this lady in the United States who claimed to be a transformational coach, but she had a degree in psychology, was pursuing her PhD. So I feel the whole combination has helped me since 2017 to now 2023.
Yeah.
Now I can finally say that, okay, I think I'm probably somewhere. But yeah, it takes a whole village, I guess.
So there's a story that one of the author of Lost Connections, Johan Hari, okay,
Yeah.
that's his name, right?
Yeah.
And that guy actually, what he did was he studied multiple countries and how they actually treated mental health. And he was telling, he has a chapter in his book about people, like going to South Africa and an African country,
Yeah.
and there the doctor was telling them, hey, do you use any kind of antidepressants?
Yeah.
And the psychologist in that country said, oh, we don't need that. And
Oh.
this Western psychologist was like, why? I mean, we have made this chemical formulation which is amazing for your
Yeah.
body,
Yeah.
which is amazing for your body and helps people come out of this
Yeah.
deadly disease. Why
Yeah.
why do you not need it?
Yeah.
They say, the doctors in that country ended up saying that because we already have antidepressants, right? And for that, they told a very interesting story. There was a person who was working in the rice farms of that country, and that country had mines from the US left from the World War. And one fine day, this gentleman stepped on that
Mine.
mine
Okay.
and lost his leg.
Oh my God.
After that, he was very depressed and not able to do things properly,
Huh.
right? Instead of treating his depression with the Western methodology,
Yeah.
these doctors went to his village and tried to understand what's happening with him.
Yeah.
They realized that the person is not able to come out of his sadness because, he had a work and a purpose in life at that time.
Yeah.
Now he can't do that because he is not capable of doing that,
Yeah.
right? But they figured out that, why don't we get this guy a cow? He can get milk out of it, still do work
Yeah.
and make money.
Right.
And that guy's depression went away in less than 1 year.
Oh wow.
So they told this Western doctor that, you see, the cow was the antidepressant, not your SSRIs,
How interesting.
right?
How
So-
interesting. No, I mean, yeah, like I was also told by my therapist that, also my life coach, that you need to have a purpose
Yes,
in life.
yes,
And if you don't figure out
yeah,
what your purpose is,
yeah,
and the moment you figure out your purpose,
yeah.
you will find yourself waking up in the morning with a different feeling.
Also, what most people don't realize is that your purpose is, so I would say purpose is like a wave, right? Your purpose can keep on changing and you can keep on jumping from one purpose to another,
Evolving. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Most people think that, oh my God, I want this one audacious dream. There is actually a term for this called bhag, which is big, hairy, audacious goal. I don't know why they call it
Big,
that.
very audacious goal.
Yeah, bhag. Bhag is your purpose.
Right.
But I don't think you should just search for that. I think you should search for these smaller purposes in your life that takes you to the next step.
Yeah.
See, life always compounds,
Yes.
and you don't realize that compounding till you reach to the point where you are right now. Steve Jobs always said that
Yeah.
you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can
Yeah.
only connect it looking backwards.
Looking backwards.
Right? And that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I was able to come out of or decrease the medication that I am given for depression because I was able to get a purposeful work
Yeah.
at the organization where I'm working right now with the government of Madhya Pradesh, right? I was able to get out of this because my parents were there, because my family was there. I was able to get out of it because I was able to read books.
Yeah.
I was able to get out of it because I was able to find the right books,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Now, anyone who would have seen me at that short span
Yeah.
would have been like, hey, you are already depressed. Why are you watching more content around depression?
Yes.
You will feel worse,
Yes.
right? But because I
Yeah.
did that, I
Yeah.
found great books that helped me actually come out
Yeah.
of it. Not come out of it, reduce my medication.
Yes. I feel my story is more about people.
Yeah.
And I'm daring to share this because you're
Yeah.
also being vulnerable.
Yeah.
I feel for me, finding the right therapist, finding the right coach
Yeah.
was very crucial.
Yeah.
But, unlike what people say that, I don't know whether it's just in India or in general,
Yeah.
that, once you start getting used to these things, you won't get rid of them and you'll get, it'll become habitual. Whereas
Yeah.
that was totally not the case.
Yeah.
Initially, I needed that help. I needed somebody to answer basic questions
Yeah.
like, these are my goals, why am I not able to achieve them?
Yeah.
And you can't put that burden on your loved ones.
Yeah.
Because they may or may not know how to help you.
Yeah.
And it is sometimes, probably, if I may dare to say, a little unfair because
Yeah.
everyone's dealing with their own problems. But the right set of people, in my case, with the right routine, the right food, just it was like the back burner in a rocket ship, and you just soar, and you keep on making mistakes along the way. I feel, and I also heard things like, oh, now you're taking medication, now you'll be fine. I mean, as a society, why have we defined fine so finely?
I mean, see, the problem with mental health or anything else is like we don't look at those uh, illnesses in a holistic manner. I'll give you an example, right? What happens when a person gets admitted for a knee replacement?
Yes.
Not a knee surgery, just a knee replacement, which I guess every 80 plus year old, because of the way they walk,
even people in their 30s.
Yeah.
Yes.
What happens? They are given multiple MRI scans. They're given multiple CT scan. They're given multiple X-rays.
Yeah.
There's an operation that happens, which is a very, very, very checklisted approach,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
There might be subjective issues that might arise during that operation.
Yeah.
There might be subjective problems that might arise during that operation,
Yeah.
but the way to get out of those subjective problems and issues is an objective approach that the doctors take based on the things that they have studied.
Yeah.
Their diet is controlled.
Yeah.
Right? Their medication is controlled.
Yeah.
And they are kept in observation.
Yes.
For 15, 20 days.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And there's a whole process with recovery, physiotherapy sessions.
Exactly.
There's a whole village, there's a whole system to help the person evolve and walk again.
Where is this process for mental health?
There is no process for mental health, and what people don't understand is there's no defined process for mental health, because everyone's mind, just like everybody's body is different, everybody's mind also is very, very different.
I agree, but what I disagree with is, just because your mind is different does not mean the biology of your mind is also different.
That is true. Very true.
Mental health is the biological illness at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It is stemming from the same mitochondrial dysfunction that anyone who is going through obesity or diabetes or a heart problem will have. That means the cell in that part of the body are not recovering well.
Yes.
And you need to give the cells the right amount of energy they need to repair. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Right? But because they don't quantify it, because they don't look at it very objectively, they say that mental health is a very subjective issue and everyone's mind is different. I've always told that, hey Harsh, you cannot build a mental health company because you don't have a high level of emotional quotient.
Okay.
Which I'm okay with, right? But
No, I don't agree with it, but
I'm okay with that.
right.
But the point is, biology or any kind of science at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's maths.
Yeah.
And maths is process oriented.
Yeah.
If you know the right markers, if you know the right process,
Yeah.
if you know how to fix those markers with
Yeah.
the process,
Yeah.
you can solve the problem. But the problem with mental health is nobody asks for the right data. They will
Right.
ask you for the full body blood work,
Yeah.
but they will not ask you for a vitamin B12 deficiency test or a lactose intolerance test or a gluten allergy test or a D3 deficiency test.
Yeah.
Most people feel depressed because they don't get enough sun in their life.
Right.
Most people in India get, or most vegetarian or vegan people get depressed because they don't have enough B12 in their body
Yes.
or omega-3 fatty acid in their body. Who is testing that? I met someone recently. She was going through issues around depression and anxiety for 7 years.
Yeah.
And she took multiple medication. She took multiple tests, everything, right?
Yeah.
But you know what helped her?
What?
She actually had a gluten allergy.
Oh my God.
And she stopped eating roti, and that solved everything. And stopping roti solved her depression. Indians are going to cancel me for that. But anyway, like the point is, we don't look at mental health in a holistic manner. We
Right.
make it very subjective, and that's unfair to the people who you are treating.
Yes. And everybody may or may not have the resilience to work at every
Yeah.
step and figure things out. I mean, I have it because maybe I'm entrepreneurial
Hmm.
by DNA,
Yeah.
but I know a lot of people who give up in between, and you get exhausted because you don't know, should I test my blood? Now it's my and I know that mental health issues like anxiety or depression kind of start showing up in your body as well, as backache,
Yeah.
as stiff shoulders, as knee problems.
I don't think people with mental health issues give up. I think they are always asking for help, but nobody gives them the help they deserve. I don't think anyone gives up, right? But I feel that the way our society looks at helping people is so wrong
Yeah.
that they fail to ask the help that they deserve, you know? And you're right, like, uh, I guess 80% of people who have depression have a higher chance of dying with a heart attack than people who don't have depression.
Yeah.
A large number of people with obesity have
Yeah.
a higher chance of having depression than people who don't have obesity.
Obesity. Yes.
And it's vice versa, by the way,
Okay.
right? So these stats are there.
Yeah.
Why don't we work
So we
towards
have the
it?
parameters, but we don't have probably platforms to give us the correct information of
Not
what
till
to track.
now. Not till now.
So now you're building something called baseline.
Yes.
So what is baseline going to do?
Baseline is going to be the only platform in the world that will allow you to measure your mental health. We are using a bunch of algorithms which are based on your metabolism, sleep, and 26 other parameters that your body gives out to your various fitness bands or your continuous glucose monitors.
Yeah.
And we are using those to build an AI model that will allow you to understand your mental health so that you can take help from your specialist or probably yourself to take a data driven decision about how you can solve what you're going through.
I think that's very much needed
Yeah.
because, so initially I was diagnosed with depression. Then 4 years later, I was told that you also have adult ADHD. It was so difficult for the doctors to figure whether it is genetic or what is the origin
Yeah.
of it. But the focus for me was always on, let me just work through this so that I can have
Yeah.
a so-called normal life.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen very few founders come out with the information that I suffer from ADHD, or this is uh, I mean, very few people really talk about it. And what people don't understand is all these things are related. The
Yeah.
depressive phases, the anxiety,
The manic phases.
the manic phases,
Yeah.
the whether it's someone with ADHD or bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
I saw a few friends suffer with that.
Yeah.
There are depressive phases. So someone might diagnose you with depression, but the reason for that depression could be
Something else that you're
like,
going through.
yeah,
Bipolar is a genetic disorder that most people go through, but because they just diagnose depression, they treat it like depression, not bipolar. The treatment for both are totally different, by the way, but the subjective mechanism of looking at it is the same.
yeah,
If you look at it objectively, it may differ a lot.
right, right. So, Harsh, when do we see something with baseline?
Spring 2024.
And you have to stick to your word.
Yeah, I know that.
Something which I, as a friend, have grilled.
Yeah, I we'll talk about that in the next episode that you do with me.
Life lessons.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yes.
This was wonderful.
All right.
I think we all enjoyed the conversation.
Yes.
Okay. Good luck to you.